You get out of it what you give. You know, if you're putting good vibes, good energy, good, service to the community, you're going to get that back. If, like I said, if you go out and search for the diversity, you're going to find it. So I think it's all about having the right intention to find your community here and find what you're interested in. If we don't have it, then start those conversations and see how we can get it.
So many of the people that live here live in such an ideological echo chamber where they don't hear anything different. And I think that's probably where I would start, is start talking and telling people the truth and inviting people with a different perspective to come live here, with the idea of changing the demographics over time.
I feel it's like some people have died, like, I would say racism, maybe, or just don't like people to be part of their community if they came from different places. But for most of the part, what I love about Johnson City is people, actually. That's why I don't want to move somewhere else. People here are really friendly, they smile, they say hi. That's what I noticed since I came here to Johnson City.
There's no one type of human being. There's just so many. We're so cool and unique in our own ways. And the more diversity we have, the more that we can allow more people to come and just be more open-minded. It's very important here because we live in a very conservative state too, and a lot of people feel like they're not heard or seen or supported, and if there's more diversity, people may open their eyes more to what their neighbor is struggling with or what their friend that they've known for so long is struggling with. I think it's very important so people can learn more.
Over the years, you do see less diversity amongst the school-age population. However, you do see a lot more, interracial families as well. And that itself has changed the dynamics, I think, of our population. And I think another thing that I would probably add to that is that, over time, there has to be more investment in discussions about what our social landscape will look like.
When things are very one-sided, things get very stagnant. If you're always doing and only seeing one viewpoint or one historic way of doing things, things do not progress. I mean, you can look at the history of most countries and isolationist countries who do not embrace diversity become very stagnant and behind everybody else. When you add in more and more cultures, more people, more viewpoints and all, everybody grows. And the world becomes a more harmonious place.
I think that's a normal human trait. We are suspicious. We are afraid. We're taught to be suspicious and taught to be afraid. And once you can overcome that fear, and once you actually get to know and get to see others, then I'm optimistic that goes away.
It's just the mindset of, how people think that has to change. I think that will change with education, with more opportunities for women where they see women in, I would say, driver's seat, and that driver's seat could be, more leadership positions or more positions, towards driving change. I think women have also to slowly nudge and help people realize that, hey, with education, with opportunities, and with our growth, we are in a position of being in a driver's seat, making our own choices for ourselves and for our families. I will say this is an opportunity in this community for finding more equality for women.
I'm here because I wanted to raise my family here. I'm here because of the family ties and that strong, rich experience that I had growing up, and hope for that for my daughter. So I think that's why people stay in communities is because they do feel welcomed, because they do feel like there's a history there, and they can build a community. So I think if you don't have those things, then you aren't going to retain the people that are living here. So this new generation that we're seeing, if we want them to stay here and raise families here, then there has to be something for them here that they are not searching for elsewhere.
You can walk wherever you want to. People know who you are. People understand that you can live here, and they're not going to be feeling some type of way that you're walking in their store type thing. So I think Johnson City is on the up and up, and I feel like people now are working towards that.
I've learned a lot in this community in the last 2 years being with Tri-Pride. I've learned that about 90% of the small businesses downtown are very accepting. We've had a lot of positive feedback, so I think it's moving in the right direction.
So the fact that people do not look down on me when I walk around, people accept me, people use my proper pronouns, that's respect that I did not receive, even from my own family.
I think a diversity of thought and background and understanding of the world has, my exposure to those things have made my life richer.
Equality to me, is a basic principle of life. Equality to me means, a tenet that every human should have, where they can express their opinions freely.
I think that absolutely, there's always hope that things will get better. And I think that our children are finding their own voice, and they want to have that discussion because there is so little diversity. It has always been, I think people of color have always had discussions about being different or feeling different. Now, I think with things in our political climate, many feel like they can talk about it. They want to talk about it. They want to talk about issues that are important to them, but also I think they want to feel that sense of community and belonging to you. So I do think there is hope, and I think we have to empower our children and make sure that we are making that accessible to them so that we can begin to have those discussions, but really begin to see change and hopefully increase the number of people of color in this area.
Education expands the horizons of perspectives and different things that you should learn about, especially educating yourselves about the different ethnicities and cultures and just being more inclusive. So education opens doorways to even more relationships and brings community too.
Just a little tiny bit of the iceberg is above the surface is what we can see, and that's true for us too. There's what we can see about a person is a really tiny part of who they are at times, and there's so oftentimes so much more below the surface.
When someone says diversity to me, what it means is just be your natural self and bring your thoughts and your opinions and from your experiences. And that could be, obviously we all have our own diverse backgrounds, diverse cultures. So bring your knowledge to the table. That's what it means to me.
And I think that's been the biggest thing that I've been doing since I've got here is having those conversations. We don't have certain things for, 20 to 41, but I've been working, especially here at the Langston Center, to build that. So I just think that the community here is what you make it, essentially.
So one thing I would say in this particular area is that there is absolutely a tremendous amount of opportunity with regards to career growth in certain industries. A younger person who is moving here, who has never lived in Appalachia, I would say that this area is pretty promising for people to build a lot of equity, both in their social equity or the professional equity when it comes to career growth. And there's also other forms of equity they can invest in: buying land, becoming a taxpayer, looking at joining charitable causes and such. So that's one thing that I think is very promising, of understanding what their values are and maybe identifying and reaching some of their career potentials.
I hope to see a lot more diversity, obviously. A lot more people getting more involved in the community, especially the younger people.
It's my idea. It's actually the community as a whole. But as we know, we have homeless here in the area, and we have people with special needs. And I feel the area, like most of the people, after they graduate from ETSU, they move to another area. But for me, I want to serve this area especially.
We live in one of the most important places of the world, ecologically and culturally, and it's a really important and special place. And I'm not going anywhere. I guess to the point of this video, like, I belong here, we all belong here, and we all have a responsibility to make it a place where anybody that comes here can know, not just feel that they belong, but know that they belong, and be a part of the history of this place, but being a part of the new history of this place, so that, when this conversation is happening 100 years from now, what Appalachia is and what it looks like and means is richer and different. So I want those of us that are committed to this work to stay and to fight and to be vocal and be visible and have conversations with people, get to know our neighbor, even the neighbors maybe that we think we don't want to know, because those are the kinds of connections we need to be making with each other.
Johnson City has enough room in it for people to be like that as well, to change that mindset of just be grateful. Because I am absolutely grateful, but I am absolutely ambitious. And so around here, I grew up here. I know I have stories on every road, but also I still rub people the wrong way, because you're not supposed to be outwardly ambitious. You're supposed to come from out of town and be that way. If you're from here, you're not supposed to be that way. And I refuse to bend for that.
One person can get some stuff started, trouble, necessary trouble. But sometimes we need to. Let's just have a conversation. And then that person goes and has a conversation. And it continues on. You're going to always run up against those that are not interested in, they're raised the way they are. You're always going to run into someone. But when you find that few, that handful, and you can really just look at one another as brothers and sisters, or just people in general. No hatred, just people. When we find those common grounds, we ought to be able to share it with someone else.
And once people realize that we are fighting for the same things, that we are fighting to belong, that we are fighting for a space and for an identity, and we're just seeking connections.
This hatred is not going to last, because love does conquer all.
I belong.
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 We belong.